So I'm standing beside a rather large and somewhat overgrown shrub of Genista Porlock or Cytisus Porlock. The name has been changed a bit by taxonomists over the years. And although you can see really quite a lot of flower, this is actually secondary flower that we're looking at. And when you look more closely, you can see that the old flowers have turned into seed pods. And really this is the moment to think about giving the plant a haircut. It may look a bit extreme, but when you see that it's already flowered once this year and set seed, this is a very vigorous plant that becomes straggly. And if you look into it, you can see that over the years it's been cut down quite a number of times. And that's exactly how you should treat this Genista Porlock or Cytisus Porlock, because it flowers on the new growth. And if we don't trim it now, we'll get new growth will appear here, but that new growth will not flower again until perhaps the late autumn or possibly next year. So what we're going to do now in the late spring is give it a really good haircut, probably cutting everything back to about 9 to 12 inches from where it was last cut back from about 3 years ago. And what we're saying to the plant is actually time for you to rejuvenate yourself again, time for you to start shooting away again and producing the sort of fantastic show that we've seen over the years. So I'm deliberately leaving, I'm not going back to the very old wood, I'm deliberately just going back to growth that first started 3 or 4 years ago, and we'll see that shoot like mad, and probably we'll get new growth which will actually burst into flower by the time we get to the autumn. But what we do know is by next spring we'll have a nice tidy rounded plant which isn't taking up so much room, isn't going to annoy anyone using the lawnmower, and actually we'll have just as good a show but in a rather more neat and compact bowl. If you're growing this plant in your conservatory, by now you'll be tearing your hair out, it would have grown too big and you'd have been forced into pruning it just as we are now. If we don't prune it, eventually it's going to become floppy, bits are going to break off, and as it gets older and more tired, so you're going to get less and less flower. Now this is one of these quick growing, heavy flowering, heavy seeding plants that runs out of energy after 10 or 12 years and doesn't look very good. You can keep your plant going and keep it looking fresh and reinvigorated by giving it a really good hard haircut after its first flowers are finished. It's going to take me a little bit of time to finish tidying all this up, and I must do the whole plant in one go so that all the energy goes into creating new growth. I'll get rid of all these sort of small dead wood branches as well, we'll get rid of them. Just leaving the main stems which are going to do the best bits of the shooting. Probably get a saw and cut out that bit of dead. If I just quickly finish off here. So we've been a bit drastic. We give it a haircut. It'll live a lot longer as a plant and you'll get a much better show next year.